In Hong Kong, you'd be dead. Hong Kong, I would be dead. Now. Hey, thanks for your help, by the way. No problem. Right, I've got to go. My girlfriend's having a baby, and she wants to get married really quickly just before she gives birth. So, right, I've got to go. Bye. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to this review of Lethal Weapon 4, which is the fourth and final Lethal Weapon film. Just checking something. So yeah, this is the fourth one, and it has a very similar style and tone as the third film, but I think the plot is better. The plot is better, and I think it's executed slightly better. So already this is a slightly better one. I do think that this may possibly be Mel Gibson's weakest performance as Riggs. I think he is starting to get a bit old for this shit. At least in the voice. He's starting to sound a bit... who was it I thought he was starting to sound like? It was in some scenes he started to sound like Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future as Marty McFly. He started to sound like him in a few scenes, especially earlier on. So I'm not sure. Also, he's had a bit of a haircut since the last film, probably due to Braveheart, or following Braveheart. And it's probably because of Braveheart that it took 6 years for this film to make, because Mel Gibson would have gone and done that film in between. That's probably well as other ones as well. He definitely voiced the character in Pocahontas. John Smith. Anyway, so in this film, the plot is there are some Chinese people. They want 4 criminals released from prison, so they're trying to make counterfeit money to give to this corrupt Chinese general in exchange for these 4 people, including our main villain's slightly older brother, released. And that's the plot. And these people, stated by some police officers later on, are people who will kill anyone who gets in their way, including cops and their families. And they are very ruthless people. And one thing they have to do, however, to get the counterfeit money made, they've got this artist kind of guy, and they're bringing in his family from China as payment. But this family, along who are put together with a whole bunch of smuggled illegal immigrants, they disappear from the ship. They are found by Murtaugh after a little incident between the Chinese criminals and Riggs, Murtaugh, and Leo when they're out on a fishing night, and so Murtaugh finds the family and keeps them home at his home. So Jet Li's character, who is the main villain, has to go and find the family known as the Hongs, so that this artist guy can finish his work. Meanwhile, Lorna from the last film, who's now in a relationship with Riggs, is having his baby, and they're talking about getting married, but they're not quite certain about it yet. So that's a subplot that happens. Riggs and Lorna are going to have a baby, and they're talking about marriage. And Murtaugh's daughter, Rianne, is going to have a baby, but he doesn't know who the father is yet. He thinks she's pregnant with some guy's baby, some boyfriend, but she's actually married to a cop called Lee Butters, and no one's told Roger yet because he's against his daughter marrying a cop. So it's when they plan to tell him that Rianne has married the cop, Butters, after the baby is born. However, the things don't really go to plan, as in a confrontation with Uncle Benny, who is another villain, Riggs accidentally reveals that Butters, Briggs and Butters accidentally reveal that Butters is Murtaugh's son-in-law. Also, speaking of Uncle Benny, he's a very fun character. He's got some funny moments, and yeah, he's got very entertaining. Would have been nice to see him be a bit more of a villain, but from what we've seen, he's still a fun guy. Also, Butters is a interesting character. Well, he's fun, at least. Played by Chris Rock. He is trying to get on Murtaugh's good side, because being the son-in-law. And that's why he's trying to always help him out, trying to be kind of suck up to him a little bit. And he's brought on a bit to help out with the investigation into the Chinese activities, in a way, and he helps out quite a lot. He's good in the chase scenes, he's good in the fight scenes. He has some great moments, and his chemistry with Riggs and Murtaugh, and in some places Leo, is really great and really well done, and works brilliantly. The subplot with Rianne being pregnant isn't really mentioned as much outside of the fact that Lee Butters is her husband. Besides that, I think the subplots are more focused on Riggs and Lorna's decision whether to get married or not, when it's not focusing on the main plot. And also, I have to say that the villains are pretty ruthless. As I mentioned, they will kill anyone, including their families, cops and their families. They are pretty ruthless. They attempt to kill Riggs Murtaugh, Murtaugh's wife and daughter Rianne and Lorna. They try to kill them off, and Rianne and Lorna are pregnant, and they don't care. That is pretty nasty, really nasty. The only way that they survive, they try to kill them by burning the house, basically, with them tied up inside. So the only way they have to escape, they could possibly escape, is because one of the Hongs that were not taken away by that point, the little grandson Payne, he's able to rescue them. Also, the final showdown is very good, where the cops, Riggs, Murtaugh and Butters, come in and basically show the corrupt general that the villains have counterfeited the money. So a big shootout in Rage happens with at least 3 of the prisoners, including Jet Li's character's brother, being killed off. The 4th one probably is as well, or arrested. And eventually Riggs and Murtaugh are battling Jet Li's character again, and they seem to be doing well to start off with, as a kind of a 2-on-1, working together as a team, but eventually they do eventually manage to stop him, and Riggs, well, first of all, they stab him with a saw. Was it a sword or a metal pole? They stab him like that, and then he and Riggs fall into the sea, and then Riggs finds a machine gun and basically just puts bullets into his body. And then Riggs gets trapped underneath some debris, so Roger, who's very injured by this point, has to go in and save him. Riggs needs saving by Roger a lot in this series. In the first one, not as much, but Riggs was battling Gary Busey's character, Mr. Joshua, in single combat, and it kind of got a bit tired by the end, so he had to go to Murtaugh for supporting them. The two together shot Mr. Joshua when he tried to make one last move. In the second one, in the version where Riggs survives, Murtaugh, well, he doesn't really save him, but he's there to make sure he stays alive. And he also shoots the Arjun, I think that was his name, the villain, so he couldn't cause any more harm. In the third film, it isn't really Riggs who's in danger, it's actually Lorna who needs some rescuing. It's just that Riggs and Murtaugh work off together to make sure Jack dies in a very satisfying way, I forgot to mention. And then Riggs has to get Lorna back to hospital. And in this film, Roger has to save Martin Riggs from drowning, basically. So, yeah. Murtaugh has to save Riggs quite a lot in this series, especially in this one. And then finally, the end of the film sees Martin marry Lorna, and she gives birth to their son, and Rhiannon has a daughter. And everyone, including Leo and the captain, get together to have a family picture to celebrate. And also, just before that, when Martin is talking to his wife, well, talking to the grave of his wife, he also has an encounter with Leo, and they have a quick chat about, we go into a bit of Leo's backstory, childhood backstory. Similarly, we had a bit of that with Butters earlier on, where he explains why he's the way he is. He's down on the ground, hard against crime. So this film delivers some nice character backstories for some characters, either an old character like Leo or a new character like Butters, and it proves very well. I would have liked to have known a bit more development about the Chinese villains, but they're still executed really well and still presented as a pretty dangerous threat. And also enjoy the scenes with Roger, Martin and Leo at the start with the shark. That's funny. The first scene with the funny guy blowing around a blowtorch and in the armour doing that stuff at the start, that opening scene wasn't as relatable to the plot as the other three films were. With the first one, we had the suicide of Amanda, which pretty much kick-started the investigation. The second one opened with the Riggs and Murtaugh in pursuit of some South Africans, pretty much leading into the plot of that film, putting the audience right into the action. And the third film eventually led to Riggs and Murtaugh being demoted temporarily, which then led to them witnessing the bank robbery by some guys pretending to be money transporters, and then eventually leading them to the Jack Travers case. In this film, really, the first scene, only way it connects to the plot is rather a subplot, is to basically have Roger tell Martin that Lorna's having a baby, and then Martin tell Roger that Rhiannon is having a baby. There may have been some deleted shots with Butters making a cameo, like in the trailers, and also a picture in the end credits, but I'm not sure. Those scenes weren't on the DVD, on the Blu-ray set, so they might have been trailer specific for the trailer, mainly for the bit where Chris Rock says that he is Mel Gibson. Funny. So, yeah, the first scene didn't really account much to the main plot. It's mentioned the start of the subplots, but not really the main plot. It's only a couple of minutes into the scene with Leo on the boat that we actually get the start of the main plot, with the ship going past a few minutes later. They are talking about being a father and a grandfather respectively, not Leo, Riggs and Murtaugh, but most of it is it's that and them and Leo fucking around on the boat, not actually making out with each other. And then the boat comes past, and that's when we actually get to the start of this story. Christ, this one's taking longer than the first film to get to the plot. That's okay, sometimes you need a slower build. So, overall, Lethal Weapon 4, it still does a good job, but I think there could have been some improvements. I think it could have been a bit more enjoyable. I think this one was, back in May when I first saw these, this was my favourite of the 4. But rewatching them, I have to say it's either second or third. Sadly, I'm not quite sure. But I will say this, they do have stronger chemistry than in the first film, because the first film it was building it up. When with the second, third and fourth ones, you get to see that expanded and just a lot more. So it's a lot more enjoyable to see the relationships between the main characters as well as other characters. And I also like the idea of having a gang. I don't mind having 2 people, but I also like the idea of having more than 2 people. That's why I think it works really well when they're with Leo, or with Lorna, or with Butters. When there's 3 or 4, sometimes 5 of them. I don't think all 5 have been in an action scene, though. That is disappointing. Maybe it would have been in the 5th film, but a 5th film hasn't been made yet. There is talks about it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, but I'm not sure how that will turn out. Overall, as a final film in the series, and I think they pretty much knew it was going to be the final film at this point, they ended on a "We Are Family" moment, and then the end credits having pictures of the films and the production of the films, all of them. So I think they pretty much knew it. So I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10. Why can't we be friends? 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 This is a great way to finish the series, but I think it could have gone out on an even better bang. I think if there was a 5th film made, I think that one could have been the big finale, and if plans for film 5 do go ahead in the future, this one will be the definitive end, same with Die Hard 6, and wrap up the story in hopefully extremely fantastic way in both counts. But until then, we've got these 4 masterpieces, near masterpieces in some cases, to enjoy again and again. Just make sure you're over the age of 15 in the UK. If you've got them on DVD, 18 for the first 2. So that's it from Lethal Weapon 4. The next film review, I do not know what will be on this channel, but I am hoping to do Spectre later in the week, or next week for the main channel. But definitely Inside Out I want to do soon, in a few weeks' time. There might be something just before then for Halloween, I'm not quite certain. And also, we'll be doing the Terminator ranking in November. And also start doing some more 2015 films, or the Alien ones. And also a couple of Bonds. From now to December 2019 will be Bond season on this channel. Excluding Spectre, because that's going on the main channel later in this month. So, anyway, but the next video on this channel, or at least film-related video on this channel, will be a Lethal Weapon 4 film ranking. So thank you for watching this review, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Meanwhile, Briggs and Murtaugh are... No. And... I burp every fucking review, or every fucking video, there's always a burp. Is it because I talk too fast? Steve, shut up! That was stupid, I'm sorry. Hey, thanks for helping, by the way. Alright. I'm off to see my wife at the hospital. She's not my wife. Not yet, anyway. Hey, thanks for your help, by the way. Hey, thanks for your help. Floppers. In Hong Kong, you'd be dead already. In Hong Kong, I would be dead now.